Joe Greer texted and said she's not. All right, thank you. Good afternoon. It is about a minute past the hour. We'll get this meeting started. This is the February 12th, 2025 special meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission. We'll go ahead and begin with roll call. Rachel, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Dom Gelsomino,
Present.
Jennifer Bobo, Mandy Roberts,
Present.
Joe Greer is absent, Ellie Hood,
Present.
Bree Sandow,
Present.
Terry Dennington,
Present.
John Nesmith,
Present.
Alan Helms.
Present. Thank you, Rachel. Quorum being present, I'd like to move to our next item, the adoption of tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion for the adoption of tonight's agenda?
Chair, I would like to make an emotion that we adopt today's agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second it.
Wonderful. Moved by Commissioner Roberts and seconded by Commissioner Dennington. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Our next item is going to be the approval of the minutes from the January 8th special meeting. Do I have a motion to adopt the, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the January 8th special meeting?
Yes, I move to approve the minutes from the January 8th special meeting.
Thank you. That is going to be moved by Commissioner Sandow. Any seconds?
Chairman, I'd be happy to second that motion.
Seconded by Commissioner Helms. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Next item coming down the list is going to be announcements with upcoming events, topping it off with our very own Shelley Houston, who is not present, so.
As we were approving the agenda, I had the thought we should probably vacate this, but I'll just be a really brief and poor substitute for Shelley, who's out after a surgery. But we don't have a lot of calendar events to go over at this time anyway, but the next large event to have on your radar would be coming up in May, which would be Unplug and Be Outside. So that will be the next big public event. And beyond that, we'll just wait until next month and get a full update from Shelley when she can return.
Wonderful. Thank you, Steve. We do not have any old business tonight. New business will begin with a recognition for Mandy Roberts for her service as Commission Chair for the 2024 annual calendar.
Yes. Mandy, will you join me down here?
Of course. Thank you.
Well, we've had a wonderful leader for the last year, and we are grateful to Mandy for her service to the commission as I think you did the vice chair and then the chair. And we always like to recognize our outgoing chairs with a plaque. So this says, presented to Mandy Roberts, Chair, Meridian Parks and Recreation Commission from January to December of 2024, with gratitude for your dedication and hard work. But really appreciate all your leadership and help with the commission over the past year. And thank you very much.
It's really been my honor. Thank you so much.
Rachel wants a picture.
Okay.
All right. Thanks. Here, you can have it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Steve. And while Commissioner Roberts makes her way, I just noticed that Emily is here. It's like, wow. I don't have to wonder if she's looking at me from beyond the screen, making errors. I can see her right there. It's good to have you back. As with Commissioner Nesbitt, we haven't seen you in a while, so we're glad to have you back as well. All right. Our next item is going to be the Parks and Recreation Department Sports Update with our Recreation Coordinator Maggie Combs and Skylar Cook. Floor is yours.
Thank you for having us this evening. So I am Maggie Holmes. I'm the adult sports coordinator. I've been with the city since 2015. Nope, I take that back, 2019.
I'm Skylar, coming up on 5 years with the city.
So just kind of looking back on, I'm going to review our 2024 year. Our volleyball leagues, we've definitely seen a big increase in our leagues for our winter leagues, increased by 6 teams, spring 21, and our fall 134 teams for the whole season. These leagues are just continuing to grow, which is a major thing. Quick update, our spring league just closed for this new season for 2025, and we're at 153 teams this year, which is our biggest league ever. So that will be exciting. We have our holiday classic, which I will touch a little bit more on. We hosted 34 teams on a Saturday. They come and play at home court. It's a great event, raising money for the local Head Start program for Christmas.
We also added a cornhole tournament to that effort as well. All the proceeds go to the Head Start program, like Maggie said. We had 8 teams this last year.
Our softball leagues continue to grow as well, with the addition of the new fields out at Discovery Park. That was able to give us a little bit more light. We have more lights, so we were able to add more teams and grow our leagues. We also brought in-house, from the last time we were here visiting you guys, the Del Drake Senior Softball League. It's a wood bat league for seniors that are 60 plus, can come out and play. They play Monday nights. They'll be out at Discovery Park on Field 5 out there. They play Tuesday and Thursday morning over at Settlers, and there is 214 teams this last year, or players, sorry. They are, some of them play one night a week, some of them play all 3 days. And I'd say our average age is in the mid-70s for that league. It's fabulous to watch them play and amazing to see what they can do themselves. We host a yearly summer fun kickoff tournament for fast pitch youth girls. As you can see, we have 40 teams this last year, the majority of them from different areas from Idaho, and then 2 out-of-state teams coming in. This is on Memorial Day weekend, so right when the kids are finishing up school and everything, kicking off the summer for them. We actually canceled our flag football league this year. They share the same fields as our softball. With the increase of softball and flag football going down, we decided to make that adjustment. There are so many other leagues in the area for them to play, so we decided to make that switch. Our basketball league was pretty consistent at our 46 teams. And everything as well.
We also offer cornhole leagues in an effort to push kind of more social type sports for folks to play in. So we do offer cornhole year round now. Spring, summer, and fall is going to be outdoors at Settlers Park. About 2 years ago, I believe, we were able to secure a grant from Together Treasure Valley to put some permanent boards out there. So there's got 5 permanent boards, which are pretty great for the community. So our leagues run out there spring, summer, fall, and then in the fall, winter, and winter, we moved indoors. We found some space at Home Court Bay 6. So this was our first winter there. We're currently wrapping up that league for the winter season before we head back outdoor for spring. We also assist the Dairy Board for the Dairy Days Festival. We had 12 teams in a cornhole tournament for that effort this last year. We also put on a Halloween disc golf tournament at Kleiner Park. We have 9 permanent baskets there, and we let those teams run through twice, giving them a full 18. We do encourage youth to come out. It is a family-friendly event, usually some parents and their kids. And then costumes are obviously encouraged. So that's been a fun event. A fun event as well. So we don't offer a ton of youth sports outside of the summer fun fast pitch tournament Maggie mentioned, but we do still see a lot of youth sports happening in our parks. We rely and lean heavily on our community partners for this. Meridian Youth Baseball and Softball out at Settlers Park is a big one that we lean on, as well as the Meridian Police Activities League, or PAL, at Heroes Park. Both organizations brought a lot to the table in the construction of those parks. And we're able to give them priority use at Heroes and Settlers. We also have partnerships with the school district, West Ada, and then Cole Valley Christian School. We manage the heritage ball fields for West Ada and help with some of the maintenance out there, as well as some of the gym space. And in turn, they allow us to host some of our volleyball and basketball leagues in their gym as well. So that's been a really good partnership. Cole Valley Christian School is same type of deal. They have their varsity baseball and JV baseball programs at Story Park as their home fields Monday through Friday for the spring. And then at Heritage Middle School for softball, their JV and varsity programs as well. So those have been great partnerships. Outside of those, on Saturdays in the spring and fall, pretty much at any park, you're going to see youth sports going on. I-9 Sports, Brage, Friday Night Flag, Skyhawks, and Idaho Storm, to name a few. We also see a lot of local tournaments hosted, whether it's adult slow pitch or youth fast pitch, youth baseball, lacrosse, soccer, rugby, ultimate frisbee, even spike ball, and some outdoor volleyball. So even if we do not put on a lot of these tournaments, we do see that need being fulfilled by some of our other community partners. Boise Blast, Crossfire, some of these local organizations really take that on and run with it. And we support them. We have those fields out at Discovery Park, a 5-plex, which has been really big for the softball and baseball community.
So we're going to talk a little bit about our numbers. As you can see, they've increased, especially since if you look past COVID and go back to like 2018, how much we've increased in 2024, and our numbers continue to grow with our adult teams, which reflects also the number of people participating in our programs. We have 7,429 participating in those programs, which is a great number of people being able to provide sports activities for them. So we do have some challenges we like to just, not acknowledge. Gym space and staffing. We continue to have the growth of our sports leagues. As I talked about, our volleyball league continues to grow, but we would love to continue to grow it. But we run into the issue of, do we have enough gyms to use and partner with West Ada? But to be able to do that, we need the staffing to set them up. So we're working and looking at different ways we could do that with West Ada as well, to be able to expand our programs and continue to grow them. We talked about our volleyball and cornhole tournament, which is not possible raising these funds for helping promote the Head Start program and buying Christmas gifts for the kids. And I just want to acknowledge some of the people that have donated to us and different prizes, because we do a raffle during that event. And so all of these people have donated in one way or another to help make that possible. So a couple of fun facts, just kind of with the Holiday Classic, we raised approximately $6,500 to purchase 560 plus gifts to help 47 children. There was 22 other children that were also part of that program that other people helped participate and buy for. All of that's done by donations, team fees, and our officials working at a reduced rate. So we were able to help provide for kids, which is a great fun event. And then another cool thing they learned about our softball program, we had 39,086 total runs were scored this last year on 111 days of softball, or 352 runs per night on average. So just the amount of people touching the field, and that is just fabulous of how many people are out there playing on them. And then again, in turn with volleyball, I mean, it's 90,352 points. That's a lot when you think about it, participating in the whole 3 seasons of volleyball. In an average night, there was over 152 nights of the season. And so, 594 points served and those balls going over the courts. Just kind of interesting information. Do you guys have any questions?
Any questions from the commission?
Yes, Chair. I have a
Commissioner
question.
Dennington?
Thank you. I was just wondering, because you mentioned, or there was on there, it kind of goes by fast, so it's kind of.
Sorry.
But that's okay. Were you trying to find officials? And you said because of lack of officials, you were having, what were the issues
Yeah,
on that one?
So some of our issues, so like basketball is one of our hard ones to expand our basketball program for a couple reasons, gym space and officials. So they don't have a ton of officials. Our softball program does run into some of that as well, where being able to expand some of the programs, just the longevity of finding officials and looking at and exploring different ways, because we partner with associations for officials as contractors and everything for those. So exploring new ways of working with those partners to get more is always a challenge.
Just to add to that, that's not just specific to Meridian. We see that countrywide, worldwide, officials are just, numbers are down in youth sports, adult sports, even professional sports. So a challenge that we're working with.
Chair Gelsomino.
Yes, Commissioner Roberts.
Yes, well, great job to you and to continuing to serve our community and their growing recreation needs. And I found those bar charts to be very interesting, just the growth in demand for these different programs. In fact, I'm almost wondering if the demand is growing at a higher level than the population as a whole. I want to dig into those statistics and take a look at that. But with regard to the challenges, we do see that there's some challenges with growth, and I'm just wondering if there are some potential solutions that you're thinking of regarding gym space and staffing. Are we, I know you guys are thinking proactively about what can we do, because I think this growth is going to continue.
We are, with the growth of the community center will help the new community center. That is obviously on the table, but we are working with West Data and talking with them of like, how can we potentially use more of their gyms and maybe them have their staff in a partnership of some sort, if we pay them as a contractor or an employee or something, in the patterns of talking, just the conversations on the table of how can we work together as partners to expand our program.
It's the staffing portion of it. Maggie will have 6 or 7 different locations of volleyball, 4 nights a week. And we only have one person that can go around and set those up, tear them down each night. So he's kind of bursting at the seams right now. So that is one challenge.
For sure.
Yes, Commissioner Bobo.
What are we?
Chair.
Okay.
No.
I don't have a question. I've heard so many wonderful things about your program. So many very happy participants. I just wanted to thank you for doing such a good job and keeping it all going.
Thank you.
Chairman Gelsomino, I
Yes.
have a follow-up question, please.
Yes, Commissioner Dennington.
Just out of curiosity, did the officials lack of, across the board, out in real world professional sports, did 2020, was there a downturn because of that? And since that period of time, that's what's happened?
That is a factor. Some of the ones that, for like our local area too, that were on that verge of like, oh, I'll do another year or two before retiring. They retired then. So we did see some of that. We did see some of them just not return after 2020 COVID. A lot of it, I would say, with talking with them is respect from players, youth, adult, fans, etc. Is retention.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And then Maggie and Skylar, of course, I'm going to echo all the compliments for the program and for the efforts that you guys do. As far as a question of my own, I know it may not have such a high request or demand, but have you both in your tenure received any interest at all from anyone as far as bocce ball leagues? Or because I've known of a few in Boise, but not really a big turnout.
I spoke to a group, I want to say Boise Bocce or maybe Treasure Valley Bocce. I think they played down at Ann Morrison.
Okay.
I reached out to them to see, we do have bocce at Kleiner Park, at Discovery Park, brand new. So tried to just get that more on their radar. They said they were open to it. Wherever they were playing had more courts. So I think that's kind of where they were drawn to that area. But they didn't even know Discovery Park when I first mentioned to it. So that was a good plug. They said they would go out and look at it this spring. So we are hopeful for that. We haven't made a big push of putting on that program ourselves because we haven't seen a lot of the requests. In my 5 years, maybe 1 or 2 questions about it.
Yeah, thank you. I had a feeling the demand's a little lower here. When I originally found out that there was a bocce league, they were playing at Municipal Park in Boise before they set up the courts in Ann Morrison. So, but thank you. Yeah. Any further questions from the commission? If not, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. All right, our next item is a Parks Code update from our very own Emily Kane.
I'll start with just some general remarks. So I'm Emily Kane. I'm a deputy city attorney in the city attorney's office. I think the last time I appeared in person was to tell you about this kind of same project, updating our city code. So the city has a strategic plan and the legal department has one assignment under the strategic plan, and it's to go through the city code and kind of audit and look for places where we can streamline and update, make it a little more user-friendly, and help it be a document that our citizens can use and understand, and kind of update it to be more of what we're doing right now. So the Parks Code is one title of the Meridian City Code that we've looked at recently. And it's been Steve and the park staff and I have worked on this for probably the last year. So we found some stuff that was lurking that was pretty old and needed to come out, and some stuff that held up just fine. So it's been a good exercise and we're nearing the end. So I wanted to, we wanted to bring this to you and just get your input. You're the eyes and ears of the public as it pertains to parks. So we wanted to get your thoughts on what we're planning to bring to city council. So I wish I have yet to find a way to make this super interesting. So I'm just gonna power through and we'll get through this together. Feel free to stop me if you have a question or it's an area you want to talk about. I'll plan to just keep on trucking unless you stop me. So starting at the top, the Parks Code right now is in Title 13. We're moving it to Title 5. There is no Title 12. So this is a plan to kind of consolidate everything and make it consecutive. So Title 5 used to be the Fire Code. That's moving into Title 6. And that will be a public safety title, public safety title. So fire moved to make room for parks. The first provision in the current Parks Code is creating the Parks Department. That has now been moved to Title I. So the Parks Code will focus a lot on what's going on in parks and less parks and recreation programming, and less how the department itself is organized and run. So that portion will be moved to Title I, which is where we'll put all the administrative stuff. In A, there's one kind of significant change that will possibly affect the public. Administrative policies are those that govern things like, can't think of an example, metal detecting in parks or different activities in parks, how we reserve fields, different policies about how things work. Right now, city council resolution is the way that is what makes that kind of official. But rather than do that, the way the public would see it is if it's posted on the website. So that this is a change that would make that more accessible to the public. I am suggesting that we number our definitions for easier reference. We're suggesting adding definitions of public tree and the word cell. So these are words that come up later in the code and they aren't defined. So you would think that, well, and they do have colloquial meanings, but this offers some clarity as to what we're really talking about later on down the code. This is a big chunk that is moving to Title I. It's a description of Steve's position. So all the director's positions are now described in Title I. These are wording changes. Wording changes. This is an update from the olden days when all we had to reserve were shelters, but now we have other amenities that we do reserve. So this is changing this to address reservations of different kinds of amenities. All right, we have made it to page 4. So one thing we deal with a lot and the parks staff deals with a lot is use of park for commercial activity. So short-term concession permits are issued to, it's for food and beverage vendors who are at an event, so like a tournament, or they're kind of attached to a reservation. Sometimes there's a big soccer day, and so a food truck will come and kind of serve the people at the soccer games. So a short-term concession permit just allows some kind of minimal regulation to make sure they have their health department certifications, and we know they're there. We know that they are insured. So that's the story of a short-term concessionaire. There are references throughout here that are a little bit outdated with how we handle them. So this is an example. This language will be deleted. The short-term concession permit not required. This comes up a few times. So I think this was helping us clarify this in the early days of trying to sort this out, but it's really not necessary to repeatedly say what's not needed when we are saying what is needed. So we took that out here and in a few other places. Wording changes. Here's another spot where we talk about what we don't need. So we took that out. These are the regulations that relate to short-term concessionaires. So these are kind of administrative changes. It used to be that we had it so that the Parks Department or the Parks Director had to invite the short-term concessionaire. So the reserving party would say, hey, Steve, we would like to invite this hot dog stand to be at our soccer games this day. And then Steve would reach out and work with that vendor. Well, that's kind of an awkward way to do it. So this codifies how we do it now, which is that the reservation holder makes the arrangements and invites the concessionaire. So this also means that food trucks can't just show up and be a part of that event. This is puts the control in the hands of the reserving party or the organizer of the it's not really an event. Events are different. So the organizer of, I'll say, the day. These provisions to differentiate the special events and regular reservations. So if 2 or more short-term concessionaires are present, that elevates the event or whatever the activity into the territory of needing a special event permit, it's a temporary use permit. So this is how we kind of sorted that out. Some cut and paste here. More kind of extraneous language removed. We made it a little bit easier. We stopped making people give us their tax ID number. That really is managed by the state. And then we have less information, which is good. Cruise on down. One thing we did was work to find economies in processing applications. So we currently have a 21-day period to process a short-term concession permit. We're changing that to 14. So everyone's gotten faster and more efficient. We had kind of behind the scenes, not behind the scenes, kind of we had it flipped. We were able to grant a short-term concession permit on certain terms, but there was no way to really deny it. So we put words to how when we would deny a short-term concession permit. I think this happens so rarely. I have not heard of it. I don't think it happens very much, but if we had to, this would give the Parks and Rec Department the tools to deny that permit. We also have in our parks sponsors. This comes up, I think, mostly with movie night. So movie night has a table or a booth for our sponsors of that event that they can talk about their business. This regulates that. Mobile soup kitchens are actually, it's the American Planning Association term for what we have in our parks is I believe it's the school district or a branch of the school district coordinates school lunches or lunches in the summer. So kids can come and get a free lunch in the park. And this is how we regulate that, which is very little, no permits are required. We just have them let us know. And this clarifies that that is allowed. And this is existing language. So this is background information. All right, so this is the kind of headline. The general park regulations obviously regulate what people can and can't do in parks. We are proposing that we make any violation of these provisions an infraction. Right now, it's kind of onesie twosie. Some are misdemeanors, some are infractions. They each have their own fine, but we're recommending that they all become infractions, which is just a ticket. And it's a $100 fine. So it's certainly a deterrent. This is, again, is very rare that happens, but it does give the code some teeth so that staff and police, if necessary, can enforce these provisions of code. Okay, so there's a lot of rearranging here. Model rockets moved to a new provision below. Flying aircraft is, hey, it's no longer a misdemeanor, so it's now a ticketable offense. This is hot air balloons and hang gliders. I haven't seen a lot of that in the parks, but I suppose it happens. We spent some time updating our alcohol provisions, I believe fairly recently in the last few years to clarify this was at the request of police. It was honestly very complicated. This simplifies it quite a bit. We have a practice of tying an alcohol permit to the reservation of a shelter. And this, there's an addition to say that you have to stay within 20 feet of the shelter. So that keeps it physically tied to the shelter too, which is how it's done now, but this codifies that practice. Amplified sound in parks is an area where we spent some time. Currently, we have the same decibel level limit for all parks. And now we're going to try shifting to a model where there's a policy that governs how sound is handled, amplified sound is handled in each specific park. Some parks have houses that are really close and some have parks that are really far away, and the space is kind of designed to direct sound away from them. So that sound limit should or can be customized for each space. Again, we're cutting the processing time for this application from 21 days to 7 days. We've gotten faster. I say we, it's not me, it's your awesome park staff. We're working on that. We're adding a provision that would give, again, some teeth to the commercial use of city parks. We don't just have rules that we hope everyone will follow. There's actually a way to enforce them. This is a misdemeanor. So that the reason to have something be a misdemeanor is basically so that someone could, if necessary, be arrested. That would be very unusual in a situation in the parks. But it also allows the imposition of a restitution order if necessary. So if damage is done, then the court can order that the Parks Department be made whole. But overall, it's really designed to avoid user conflicts and, you know, give some control to the city about risks and liability that come with commercial uses of parks. This is a cut and paste from the tree. We love our trees, take care of trees. Oh, we realized that that we were referencing the bark park, which is an old fashioned word that we used to use for our dog park. And we have more than one dog park now. So that language has been updated. Moved fishing to hunting and fishing. We had to add an exception for golfing at the golf course. We realized golfing was illegal at the golf course. So that was a bummer. So that is fixed. We got some feedback that glass, you know, it's pretty standard to disallow glass, but now glass will be disallowed on a hard surface instead of everywhere. People are bringing glass containers to enjoy concerts, and if they're sitting on the grass, the risk is much lower of broken glass. So that was a change that we made. Here's the
Emily, I
yes.
apologize. Quick question. So defining a hard surface, so concrete, anything that's not grass, correct?
Correct. I think it's a really good point.
I was gonna say, I am not legal by any means, but I am a very literal person. And so when I think of hard surface, I can go out in my backyard and even during the summer, the clay consistency and the grass of my backyard is a hard surface. So just
Absolutely
my curiosity
Mhm.
bringing that up.
Thank you. That's good feedback. The intent is, of course, concrete and asphalt, but you're right. The grass can be hard, or there are other surfaces. So I'll take a look at that. Thank you. Yes, hunting's not allowed. That's I don't think so. Exactly. Exactly. We left it there. Fishing is allowed in some parks, so we did update that to say, as long as you follow the rules, follow the signs, have your fishing license, it is allowed. We have seen an uptick in motor vehicles, kind of some reckless behavior in some of our parks. So we're adding some of this at the request of the police department. I learned a new word. It's actually Australian, called hooning. It's in Ohio. They had a bill introduced to prohibit it, and it's basically doing all the silly things we all did in cars when we were teenagers, and would never tell about that, but it's just doing scary stuff with cars in parks, which it's not the best space for that. So that activity has to go to more remote areas. So this language is borrowed from an Ohio bill prohibiting this kind of activity. We still have a park closure provision, but I moved it into another provision coming up, the trespass in parks. Yes. Good question. So motor vehicles are defined in Idaho code, and the motor vehicle code is pretty tricky because there have been some new vehicles that have been really invented or come into vogue since it was written. But motor vehicle clearly means basically cars, trucks, and motorcycles. So we're covered there. The bikes do, yes. E-bikes under state code are bicycles. It does get super tricky because there are mopeds, and a lot of e-bikes act a lot like motorcycles. So I think that's going to be a challenge for our legislators in the future. right now, we're still able to categorize the new stuff using what we have. So this does not scoop in e-bikes, though. Good question. Pathways. This is an area that our counterparts in Boise and Ada County have looked at recently on their green belt. So we looked at it too. There are lots of ways to slice this, but what we decided on was to say no person shall operate on pathways, cars, so that is easy. Off-highway vehicles, which are razors and UTVs. And then, and actually snowmobiles, but that doesn't happen very often. And then golf carts. So those are things that are not allowed. Cars, UTVs, and golf carts. And then Ada County went around and around with a possible speed limit. How would that be enforced? And we followed their lead to say, we settled on no one shall travel at a speed greater than or in a manner that is not reasonable under the conditions, and having regard to the actual and potential hazards then existing. So if you're on your bike or your electric bike and you're out on a remote pathway, there's no one there, you can go as fast as is safe for you to do. But if you're around a lot of people, that you need to govern your speed and be respectful of the other people on the pathway. We don't see that I know of a lot of conflicts on pathways. This is largely just a way of dealing with it. To the extent we do have conflicts, it is golf carts and people, or just people going too fast. So this should address, we think this will address what we need to address.
Sure, go ahead.
Oh, yes, Commissioner Roberts, go ahead first.
Oh, thank you. Well, I just did want to mention on that, when we've toured some of the pathways and just when I've been on some of the pathways, there is this type of e-bike that almost seems more like a mini bike motorcycle. And I've seen, some folks driving really fast, and it does kind of concern me, just kids on bikes and pedestrians. So I don't know if this has enough teeth behind it to prohibit that, but even on our tour, I was observing that, and I just don't know how we control it, so.
Can be complicated.
Yeah.
Certainly, so setting a speed limit would necessitate posting the speed limit, and then bikes would have to have speedometers. So, and then enforcement is another layer. So it is a really tricky issue, and that's compounded by this issue of what is that just went by, because sometimes differentiating an e-bike and a motorcycle is down to, how the engine works and what's happening under where you cannot see it. So it is a really tricky issue. All feedback is definitely welcome on this in particular. There are different ways to do it. But I think part of it is it's such an ephemeral act. It happens and then it's gone. And so even if you were to call the police, then even if a police officer was standing right next to you when that happened, that would still be hard to enforce. So there are challenges inherent in addressing shared use of the pathway as it is.
Chairman, on that same issue, I remember that on the Boise, on the Beltway, they were having the same issue with the concern that you just addressed. I don't know, I never heard of a resolution, but I didn't know if they've done anything about it.
Commissioner, they did, I don't know that we completely plagiarized their language, but we have borrowed heavily. So the county does have something like this, like what we have here in section S2, that is more of a reasonableness standard than a number. They have the same issue that sometimes it's very congested and sometimes you're the only person between here and the horizon. So it is hard to set it up. The problem does come when people go way too fast when you're just trying to take a walk, and that's hard on everybody. So
There's also a bit of a noise issue with some of those.
Mhm. It's
I
exactly.
know my e-bike does have a speedometer, so I think that's becoming more prevalent, but.
Well, and I understand you can also download an app that acts like a speedometer, so it's not impossible if we had a speed limit.
Is there a mechanism here where people could be warned then if they are not in a reasonable and prudent manner of operating? And then would they be subject to that $100 fine as well? Or is that something that, yeah, okay.
Yes, so a violation of this would be an infraction with a $100 fine. That, as a matter of course, people in Meridian are generally warned, especially for infractions. So I would say yes, and if it is, especially if it's minors, the effort is always to educate and, if necessary, talk to the family. So that's in practice. It's not codified here that you're entitled to a warning, but that's definitely how I think it would go, especially with something like this where it happens and then it's over. So it's just a matter of curbing the habit.
Emily?
Yes.
Just a quick question on this, not so much as around the speed limits, I mean, directly relating to the speed limits, but, you know, I've been here now 15 years, and when I moved here to Idaho from Southern California, we didn't have pathways as we have them here. So naturally at the very beginning, the whole on your left, on your right was, even to this day, sometimes I still get them mixed up. Does it mean move on your left, or do I'm coming on your left and, you know, stay on your right? Have you ever come across a situation? Because what you were talking, the point that I wanted to make was around what you mentioned, that you don't have, or you haven't encountered very many conflicts on pathways. Have you, in those situations where you've encountered them, has the discussion, whether at the state level or city level, even in Boise or surrounding areas, come up with the idea of maybe having the dividing dash lines? I mean, I know they're an eyesore, but if we're playing the game of CYA, it's, you know, something that I'd be curious to know if it would be a solution.
I defer to Kim. We've had some conversations along those lines. Not to that scale, but.
Mhm.
Commissioner Gelsomino. Yeah, we do our major pathway, the 5 Mile Creek pathway, which runs for several miles, is striped. And yes, it was deemed an eyesore by someone who called in, but I think in general, it's a fairly standard approach. We did it to identify the course of the 5 miles so that people could keep track of it, where it maybe gets a little unclear at intersections, but it also functions to control traffic. I don't know how much of that control we need now, but we don't, as a practice, stripe other pathways, but we could. It's more trickier when it's a 10-foot sidewalk that's part of the public right-of-way. And then we need permission from ACHD to do that. And
Right.
so if that helps.
I mean, I know it's not even even to that level, granular of a level, it's not really enforceable, and people are gonna zigzag wherever they please, so.
There is a lot of etiquette related to shared pathway use that it's tricky to know what to put in the code and make it actually illegal. And I can really relate. When someone says on your left, I want to leap to my left. Not what you're supposed to do. So leap to your right, just go to the right. But
I use the pathways a lot, especially the 5 mile, and it is getting more, electric bikes are coming on more often. And I will say, I put a plug in for those lines. They help a lot because it gives your mindset of a road and you know how to pass on a road. It does help a lot. Although I would say that's not much of a problem. People go fast, but they typically slow down when you get near somebody, and then on the 5 mile, because it's such a long pathway of straight, you can get going fast when it's safe. I would say I pass, or a lot of electric bikes pass me on my pedal bike. They slow down, they go around me, they keep on going. It's not much of a, I see it on the green belt, it's a problem there, but it's because there's a lot more people there. I think until we have more people using the pathways, we're fine.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Nesmith.
just an idea, would it be possible, like in the code, to put a provision in for maybe a moving target, like pathway etiquette as determined by the director of the Parks Commission, or not commission, of the Parks Department, excuse me? And that way it would give maybe a more flexible way to manage over time. And Steve and everybody could, like, maybe it's 15 miles an hour today, maybe it's 20, then in other words, it could move without having to go through and change the code. Just an idea, in other words, and you could put in etiquette of, by the way, you know, click here for pathway etiquette, move to the left means don't jump to the left, you know, because we all get confused.
For example.
But, you know, and maybe communicate electronically how we can all live together, motorized, well, not motorized, but electric, you know, electric, pedestrian, bikes, et cetera. Just, but you
that
could
is
put some
great.
teeth in it
Mhm.
that, in other words, giving the department some teeth of, but you could evolve it quickly, like update a website.
Mhm.
But in your code, it would be pertaining to the website as determined by the director of the parks.
That is certainly a possibility. That actually, the next provision does say that posted signs are to be obeyed. So I really like the idea of a sign with information at least, and then if there are additional rules, because I could see not all of the green belt is super congested. If we developed a super congested area, then that zone could be subject to different rules. And I like I'm picturing like a QR code or something.
Right, that's exactly what I was thinking, a
Yeah.
QR code, and direct everybody to what, and then everybody that does follow rules will go, hey, it'll become a community effort to try to steer them in the right direction.
Yeah, that is a great idea. I think at this point, we're not seeing a problem that we need to address, luckily.
Right.
But if that does come up, I think that's a great idea
Nice not
because
have to have city council involved to create a code,
Mhm.
or really, you guys know what to do, and boom.
Just put it on the sign.
Fix it.
Well, and signs everyone sees who are using the area. So that's a physical reminder or a physical notice. Whereas I don't think people are necessarily reading the city code before they go out on the pathways.
No,
I do.
No,
but I just check.
yeah,
But yeah, I think that is a great solution. Our proposal is sort of preemptive and largely motivated by what we saw in Ada County and Boise. It really actually became pretty heated in their debate about how to address an actual problem that they were having. So we're trying to get ahead of that a little bit, learn from what we saw there and put that here. But in the event that it does become an issue, I think that's a great way to handle it. Okay.
Any additional questions? All
Okay.
right, Emily. Yep, you can continue.
Thank you. Okay, so there were a lot of very specific things. Tennis courts is one of them. Rules and regulations covers that, how to act on the tennis courts and what do the signs say, what are the rules. For consolidation, this is a new provision, but is comprised of provisions that already exist. So model rockets in parks, remote controlled devices, thrown objects, and things like skateboards, roller skates. Haven't seen a lot of those lately, but how to use those things on playgrounds safely. And then finally, this is somewhat, no, this is not new. This is not new language, but I moved it to the prohibitions section, trespass in parks. So staying there after a park is closed, staying within a park. It's okay to walk through a park if you have to get from point A on one side of the park to point B on the other side, even if the park is closed, but you can't hang out in the park. Being in part of the park that is closed, if you're asked to leave, if you come back, or if you're asked to leave for a long time and you come back. So those provisions are currently on the books, but it's now all in one section. Okay, moving on. So we have some provisions about operations of the park. We already have hours of operation and park closure, so that section didn't get much work. We have a whole section about denial or revocation of permits and appeal that is now covered up above, so that took out a lot of extra language. This is the enforcement section. So we've worked with the police over the years to get this to be hopefully useful. Again, the parks are happy places and we're not really trying to spy on people and make sure they're doing what we want them to be doing. It's usually everyone's getting along and it's okay, but occasionally we do need to ask someone to leave. So these provisions update who can ask people to leave, who can enforce these provisions. We do have currently an ejectment order, so authorized personnel can ask people to leave the park right away. You need to go. This is so unacceptable. You need to be gone for that whole day. That's just a timeout for the day. We also have a park exclusion notice, which is, okay, you can't be coming back here. We've needed this actually with a lot of the driving and car issues that we're seeing because they are so dangerous. And so to disperse people, we'd like to have the ability to say, don't come back. You need to be gone. Don't come back. Don't come back next weekend. You can maybe come back in 2 weeks and please drive appropriately. So this is, again, already on the books, but this gives a little more clarity and just kind of polishes this up to be more, not user-friendly, but make it clear who's doing what and what notice is required. That's really the nuclear option. We really don't want to do that. We want everyone to be using the parks, but if necessary, it's a tool that we can use to calm things down a little bit.
You know, Emily, I haven't had those circumstances where I've noticed that a lot, especially at Story Bark Park, where someone comes in with their dog and you can tell from the outset it's not having a good day, but owner is either head in the clouds or just does not frankly care. And you have those instances where their dog lashes out towards others, whether people, children, if people are bringing their children, or their dogs. So it's a matter of there's nobody ever to really enforce it because that person over there is saying, oh, well, someone else is going to tell them off and tell them to go home. The other person's like, no, somebody else will do it. Somebody else will do it. And it just doesn't happen until it gets to the point where someone's going to get hurt. So that's one thing that just kind of that light bulb moment when you were talking about that.
Yeah, it can be a useful tool. It's very rarely are police involved. That usually comes up at special events when there's crowd management issues or just lots of people. But it can be a tool that park staff can use to deal with conflicts just like that. So hopefully it is just a 1-day chill out and that takes care of it. But that doesn't always work. Parks are public spaces, so it is, we're not banning people for life. We're not saying you can never come back. That's probably not something we can do, and we don't want to do that. So hopefully we have some tools here to let people rehabilitate and come back when they're happier. That we are almost to the end. So this last provision still is under construction a little bit. We have this on the books because it is part of our requirements for our designation as Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation. So we're working through what we need to do to comply with those requirements, but it's on our wish list to streamline that a little bit. However, we might need to enhance it a little bit. We might have gone a little too far, and we want to make sure that we're compliant with those requirements and that we have a forestry program that community forestry program that is compliant, so we can stay Tree City USA, which we have been for many years. So,
Yes, Commissioner Roberts.
Emily, just a question on that, because when I think of the arborist's role, you know, sometimes they might be advising about trees even outside of parks, you know, in roundabouts or part of streetscapes. I just wonder, did we give any consideration to maybe moving that to the title, was it Title I as well to be, it just seems a little kind of tucked in at the end, so I don't know.
it is. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
The directors are all in Title I. There are a few staff members that are also there. They're mostly administrative. It is an odd one. What makes it odd is that everyone is vital, and so it's strange to only have a code section that talks about one staff member.
Right.
But that's the requirements are actually pretty rigorous because they want to know that the community has a really strong program. So this is not, honestly, we don't usually put our job descriptions in city code. So it is an odd place to put it. I'll use this time to say that another requirement is that we have a tree board. And that is you all. So you are the Parks and Rec Commission and you're the tree board. And we don't actually have a job for the tree board. We used to have an appeals process to the commission for when the city arborist required someone to cut down their tree. If it was a nuisance tree, they had the right to appeal to this commission. I think we may have done that once. I don't remember. John, did you ever hear an appeal? I don't remember. If we did, it was a long time ago, but I've spared you that. Eventually we realized that would have been excruciating because they're really, the appeals of those are not that fun to hear because the tree really needs to come down. So there's really no two ways about it. So I don't actually know too much about what the tree board does, but if it does ever come up, we'll do an extensive training for you so that you can learn. We'll have learned too. That's right. Maybe that's it. I think you're already doing it then. Okay, so we're at the end. The next steps are that we will take this to city council and discuss it with them kind of like this and get their feedback, and then it would be codified. But I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Do we have any additional questions for Emily?
Chairman Gelsomino.
Yes, Commissioner Dennington.
Yeah, I didn't want to stop you along the way as you were going, so I found this very riveting, contrary to what you thought. So back on page, well, actually before that, and I didn't write down when it talks about not landing airplanes and hot air balloons and that kind of thing. I'm not sure where that section is towards the beginning. I don't know if you remember, but it mentioned that other than toy, or something along those lines. Is that correct?
Yes.
But then when you get down to the remote controlled, it says you can't do remote controlled planes and things like that. Seems like that under page 12W on remote controlled. Did I misunderstand that? For some reason, it seemed like you made a comment about it being, if it was a toy, it was going to be okay, but did I read that wrong?
We'll check.
Yeah, this provision shall not apply to, oh, sorry.
No, it did say it shall not apply. Let's double check the remote control though. I believe that's now under toys. Too clever.
Yeah, you were there. It was there a second ago.
So also no, remote controlled vehicles. So, I guess how I would answer that is that if it's a toy airplane and has a remote control and there are those, we've seen it's a big one that
Mhm.
is kind of a hobby. So that would not be allowed. However, like a glider, so if you could throw it,
So manual,
a manual one, that's
so any kind
okay.
of manual toy, but not anything that had any kind of control device
Correct.
is then, so they can't do that. They can't use the remote controlled.
Correct. Correct. No drones in parks, although the limitation is when other people are present. So this is again, more of us trying to stuff etiquette into a code. It can be tough. It's been a long time, but when drones first became a popular toy, there were a lot of conflicts. There were some racing and people would fly them overhead and take pictures. And so we're seeing, I think, less of that. But the conflict really comes up when there are other people there who don't want to be participating in that. So if it's early in the morning or time of day when there aren't a lot of people there, that is allowed. So I spoke too broadly to say it's never allowed. Someone could fly their toy airplane when there aren't other people present. That would still be allowed. And so would a drone.
Okay. And then on page 8, and the C3, serving alcohol at private events. If I remember, if I'm looking at this correctly, was saying a person may not sell, serve, offer, or provide an alcoholic beverage to another person only with a valid shelter reservation and a valid alcoholic beverage catering permit issued. So if you're there with your friends and you offer them something to drink, it's looking like you have to have a permit just to say, hey, I have a beer in my cooler. You actually can't just have it at your private event?
So an alcohol catering permit is, so the language does say if applicable, and that would only be applicable if you're selling or you're serving, like setting up a bar at a wedding. So if you are bringing a cooler and sharing alcohol, then what you need is a shelter permit. And then to stay within 20 feet of the picnic shelter. So in that case, the catering permit would not be required, would not be applicable.
It just kind of, because it's not a public event, it's private, and it does say I can't even offer. I can see sell, serve, because serve seems more like you've got a stand or some kind of thing there. Or you're providing, if somebody's providing, but when you're offering it to somebody, it's usually because they're your friend or your relative or something. So it just seems, it says that it requires a shelter and the permit. That was just my
applicable.
question. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
It does. And the limitation, if applicable, indicates that if it's not applicable, then you don't need it. So it really comes up, it's weddings and occasionally like a company party or something like that, where there's a cash bar and the person serving that alcohol in that event has to have a liquor license and a catering permit from the city clerk.
okay. And then on page 10, you were talking about the fishing there. So maybe they do require, and I didn't know that. So Fuller Park obviously has the big pond there and there are people fishing all the time. And requires a fishing permit? State, is that what it said?
Yes.
They have to have a state license to fish there?
Yes.
Okay,
and-
so I see lots of kids there and I'm not sure they have licenses. Anyway, I'm just wondering because there's people fishing all the time there. And I never even thought about the fact that you would need a license because you just kind of they're just throwing the fish back. So I just didn't know how that was kind of working with that one.
I don't recall all the ins and outs of the fishing license requirements, but if the game warden were to stop by and check everyone's licenses, then those who need them would need to produce them. And I believe even kids have to have them, but there's a lower fee for them to get that. So that's part of we have, or we used to have fishing is fun day, and it would be an introduction. You wouldn't need a license to do that, but that's a way of educating the community about what's required.
I don't remember ever seeing a sign there that says fishing permit required. I don't know, maybe I just, I've walked around it, but I maybe haven't paid attention to it. I just know that the kids are fishing there all the time. And grown men as well, but a
Sure.
lot of children are fishing. And let me see. Oh, on page 12, on it's same place, but on section V, page 12. It's talking about smoking.
Yes.
No person shall light, use, or consume any tobacco product, whatever, in the park
Yes.
unless they're in, what is it, on the parking lot. They can't, like if they're, so I was kind of surprised at that because, some people do smoke and they're just, sitting at a park bench or, somewhere they're not on the parking lot, but that's then illegal. They can't smoke in the parks.
Correct.
Okay.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
Well, I'm not a big fan of smoking, but, but I don't want to infringe on people's rights as well. I mean, just because I don't like it doesn't make it, I don't want to, again, trample on other people's rights if they want to do it. So it's not my place to tell them what they can and cannot do. But I guess we can for parks, which is okay. So we basically need to say, those signs also say there's no smoking except in the parking lots. I haven't seen them. Are they?
Yes, we have those signs up.
I'll have to look for them. Okay.
The parking lots are excluded. So if someone wants to smoke, they're allowed to go to the parking lot to smoke, but within outside of the parking lot, it is prohibited.
Once you're on the grass, you're not smoking the grass. So, no.
Not allowed.
That's not allowed either. That's under a different code, right? So.
Do these rules still apply to, or do they apply to Lakeview Golf Course? Is it classified as a park? I know.
Generally, good question. Commissioner, no. So there is, I might have to do another read, but for each facility, so we have the golf course and the pool and home court, there are different rules and regulations that apply there. So I did anticipate, I had that same question, and what brought it up was the golf being accidentally illegal at the golf course. So I thought, oh dear, are we making golf, this was not a good example, are we making golf now legal elsewhere? Or certainly each of those places has their own, activity and rules, so.
Well, on the golf course, let's say smoking, but the big part of it, you'll stand out. I mean, there's a lot of cigar smoking.
The motorized vehicles.
Right. There's drinking on it. Not about me. I get all else first. So anyway,
That's a good question. I may need to, here, okay, this is how we resolved it. So in section 514, so at the very beginning, before we have all these rules, it says, except as expressly authorized by written order of the director. So this is the exit clause that lets the Parks and Rec Department, lets you set the rules for each facility a little differently. So we do have, and we're still developing this to some degree, but each facility does have a set of rules that are specific to that facility. But it's a good idea. You bring up a good point to go through and see how we would treat each of these behaviors at those facilities and make sure that we're covered. So,
I'd recommend you stay away from it, but that's just.
you blew it.
I mean, I
Mr.
can't
Chair?
even get certain golf cart etiquette across to a lot of the players there. It's just, it's, yeah, it's just interesting. Everybody's having fun, and plus they pay to go there, so.
Mr. Chair, and Alan, at the golf course, there's a set of like rules or policies of the golf course, and smoking's not prohibited within 100 feet. You have to be farther away from the building, the clubhouse building. You got to be 100 feet away. So if you want to have a cigar on the golf course or whatever, it's fine.
You're safe. All right.
Any additional questions? Hearing none. Emily, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think that's the most back and forth we've had on this commission since I've been here. Yeah. All right. With that, we will now move on to Department Community Center update by Garrett White.
All right, that's tough to follow. So we'll see what we got over here. So I'm here tonight to give you guys an update on the community center. I can't remember, been a couple months since we've been back and kind of give you guys an update. A lot of work has been done. Not a whole lot has been changed when it comes to floor plans and site plans and stuff, but a lot of stuff behind the scenes has happened. So that being said, we had the community outreach. We had the public open house Thursday, December 5th to get feedback from the neighborhood. We sent out mailers about a quarter mile, if I remember correctly, a quarter mile from the perimeter of the new property we purchased. So we sent over 500 notices out through the mail and stuff like that. Blasted things on Facebook, social media, everything we could to get it out, to try to get people to come. We had a pretty good turnout. 30-ish people, 40-ish people came to kind of talk about it, see what's what, get some feedback on it. Some of the key takeaways we had there was traffic, right? We want to make sure that there's a traffic light at Venable and U-Stick, which I have with the red star there on the map, just to kind of point that out. Parking on Venable, some people felt it was a little too narrow there. That's kind of an ACHD thing that we'd be working with them on. And same with the parking, and not the parking, but the traffic light on Venable and U-Stick. It's an ACHD thing as well that we're pinging them quite a bit, or Mike's pinging them quite a bit to try to see what we can do to get a light there. Parking in the neighborhood, you can kind of see Ashby Drive right there that kind of borders the north end of the park there. We are trying to get people not to park there, trying to get it there. So you'll see when we go to the layout, you'll see kind of where the parking lots are strategically placed next to the ball fields there. A lot of them love the location of the dog park away from the homes, which you'll see here in a second. And they appreciated the additional parking. And one of the comments that we heard was that they felt like Meridian Youth Baseball and the city are listening to their concerns regarding the parking and trying to help address that. So obviously you guys heard from MYB and MYBS last month, and they're doing great things also. We also had the opportunity to meet with city leadership, council, to kind of give them a community center overview of kind of the outreach. Kind of give them an idea of our staffing plans, like we had discussed last time with you guys, just kind of like, promotions and using existing staff, ideas on operational budgets, concept designs, kind of showing them what you guys had seen last time too. And then the park amenities that we want to add to the park expansion there. So we're able to meet with them and talk to them about that. The community center, like I said, not much has changed, although you'll see the flex space size gyms got a little bit bigger since last time we met. The stage is about 24 by 20. I was able to get a hold of Treasure Valley Children's Theater and kind of talk to their director and kind of say, hey, I'm obviously not a very good actor or stage presence, but what is a stage you guys would like? What can you use? What would you not want to use? What's your preference? And they said it's more about the width of the stage and the depth, but 24 by 20 would be awesome. So that's basically what we got there, is a 24 by 20 stage there. We'll have a lot of storage underneath it. tables and chair storage underneath it, very similar to what you see at elementary school gyms, in their stages that are connected to them. They have the storage there. We'll also see that we got the fitness room a little larger than before, exercise room a little larger, the cooking classroom a little bit bigger. We were able to kind of move some things around and get things a little bit bigger. I think I talked to you guys last time about the access control. Mouse doesn't necessarily work, but we kind of split the building up into 3 different spots like we had talked about before with the access control, to try to figure out how do we get people in there when we don't have staff there so that the facility can still be used, but also keep the other facility from commingling, I guess, for lack of better words. The possible fire prevention office location. So if you look at that, that's kind of developed a little bit more as well. And that is in the bottom left-hand side of the map there, or the floor plan. And the next slide will be a little bit bigger floor plan. I just showing you here with my notes, but that's where the fire is. Those 2 rooms in the bottom left are the actual fire prevention rooms. There's a sally port, which is basically a drive-through garage with a big classroom, offices, restrooms, storage, those types of things that they need with that.
I think your mouse should work if you try it.
Does it work now? Oh, there it is. It's not accurate, but we'll see. There we go. Right there is what I'm talking about regarding if you can see my mouse, the Fire Prevention Center office. So the whole current facility right now is barely under our allotted square footage for impact fees, park impact fees. So we're right where we need to be regarding square footage. That does not count the fire department. The fire department square footage is per fire impact fees. So we're able to split those and make the whole thing. So the fire is about 4,000 square feet, and then the rest of ours is, 22,000 and some change. We were able to go, myself and a few staff were able to go to the South Meridian Y and tour their facility. Just to kind of get an idea of what, this is how big their room is. Is this kind of what we're thinking, making sure that we are on the right track, making sure this is what we need size-wise, everything from ceiling height to flooring to realistic garage door sizes, everything. We kind of we're able to see what they have and what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And we had a couple of their staff there walk around with us and kind of tell us, hey, I wouldn't do this, or this actually works really great, or this isn't used for very much here, or maybe make that space something different. So it was very nice to be able to talk with them and share thoughts and ideas. So we feel really good about the size of our classrooms now and the functionality of the whole facility itself. This next slide is really just a blown up picture, so you can kind of see dimensions there. Can't get it too much bigger or wider without kind of, torquing certain things in there, but the layout seems to work very well. We still are working on elevations and roof heights and stuff like that, so we're not quite there yet, but we're still working on the schematic design portion of it. The site layout itself for the park expansion, you can obviously see the big community center right there in the middle. You can kind of see, sticking with that, where the fire department is that bottom left-hand side of the sharp gray there, and you can kind of see the Sallyport drive-through portion there. They wanted to be able to do car seat checks and different fire apparatuses going through there and getting tours for boys and, the Girl Scouts, Cub Scouts, those types of things. All around it, you can kind of see where we have the open green play, open space. That's basically about a soccer field, like we had mentioned before. Parking, dog park stuff, playground, future addition for gym space and or classroom space. We have the big open green space just to the, I'm going to say east towards the ball fields on the right-hand side of the community center there for a possible expansion of classrooms and programs there. Like Maggie and Skylar said, Maggie's got 153 volleyball teams. I'm kind of glad I'm not doing sports anymore or deal with those schedules. But the gym right now that we're building right now is full. It's filled, right? So we know that in the future we may need some more gym space and or classroom space on that. We're looking at, doing different pathway connections to the ball fields. Again, trying to make it convenient for people to park here and not in the neighborhoods with that. So that's kind of working out there. So possible playground right there above it too, in between the ball fields and things. One thing that I'm going to go back here a slide, the top left corner, you can kind of see there's two different restrooms up there in the very top. One's facing east, which is the top of the page there. One's facing the north side. Reason being is if I go back to this, if you kind of picture up here on that top corner, one restroom, outdoor restroom, kind of faces the playground and one kind of faces the open green space. And that's basically for line of sight for little kiddos that need to go to the restroom and stuff like that. Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa can see them visually go in the door and this and that. And they're both two family restrooms, if that makes any sense. But we wanted to make sure there's outdoor stuff because right now with the amount of use that the open green space gets at Settlers, we felt that it'd be nice to have a restroom right there. So easier access for that, especially near the playground with that. Kind of the next steps right now, we need to start completing the schematic design development. That's basically, elevations, really dialing in on some things, and we'll start moving into the design development stages later, hopefully soon. Again, we'll check in with city leadership, update you guys, show you guys some nice pretty elevations and things like that to make sure we're still on the same page. And then we'll start moving later or probably in June, July, we'll start moving into more of the construction documents and stuff like that. Hoping to bid the community center and the park expansion in October of 2025, and then break ground in spring of 2026 and open in FY 28 for the budget year. Now, that was our wish. We still have to go through all the council budget stuff and making sure we are in alignment of what they need and what they want as well. So nothing's necessarily 100% approved yet. So we're still working on that. At this point, I'll stand for questions.
Any questions from the commission?
Garrett,
Commissioner Helms.
on the, you had a future space for construction there, in that one?
Yes.
A future addition. So, I'm surprised you just don't do it now because it seems like the biggest problem you guys have is running out of space. But, because we have so much popularity in this, so, and then I didn't know if there's any, I guess the parking restricts the total square footage. Code-wise?
That's a great question on the code. I'm not up to that, but our architects say that we're meeting all our codes plus more.
I can
when it
help
comes to
answer
parking.
that, Mr. Chair, if it's all right. So yeah, we have a maximum square footage that we're allowed to build with impact fees. It's part of the impact fee or calculations based on existing population, existing square footage, and then projected population and how much more can we build. So we are maximizing that allowable square footage with this plan. That future addition would be like another gym if we were to be able to add another gym in the future. At this point, it would take, a donor that wanted to pay for the whole thing. If you know of one, or if you want to do it, let me know. But the idea is we're trying to plan for the future and build everything we can today.
Thank you.
Chair Gelsomino?
Yes, Commissioner Roberts.
I have kind of a piggyback question related to Commissioner Helm's comment. So I was just being mindful of what you said about the restrooms, Garrett, and that those sight lines to the playground, and that future addition would change that dynamic, right? So I was wondering, what about the other side of the path on the, I guess that, where's north? Is it up or?
North's going to be over here to the left.
Oh, to the left. Okay, so I guess that'd be kind of on the south side of the playground and the path. There's that more rectangular open space. Why is the future addition targeted where it is? I mean, could it be flexible and go to that other side? And then you could build more gyms. You know where I'm going. Yeah.
You don't mind if I take that one too? It's not shown on here, but there is a potential future addition on that site as well.
Okay.
It would have to be separated by a breezeway because we have back patio uses. You wouldn't want to put a restroom on that side because we have garage doors that open up and allow indoor, outdoor activities in those classrooms.
Yep.
If in the future we wanted to do another wing of classrooms, basically you would leave a gap between the existing classrooms. You could extend where that lobby area is to the going up on this plan. It would technically be east, but yeah, right there.
Yep.
You could extend that further up and then do a whole nother wing of classrooms, but you'd have to create a separation
Right.
between the existing bay and those.
That makes sense. Okay. So there's flexibility.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good to know because I see that as a lot of possible space. And we heard earlier about running out of gym space, and we all know how fast everything's growing around here. So that's great.
And I'll just say, you know, we want to keep the flexibility to add on here because that makes a lot of sense. But there's also the idea that we may want to build the next community center in South Meridian.
Okay.
As opposed to have it all centralized here, but that'll be a future decision.
Okay.
But we're trying to create the flexibility to have it happen here if that's the best path forward.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none. Thank you, Garrett.
All right, thank you, guys.
All right, that leaves us with our Parks and Recreation staff reports. Steve, I'll let you take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Got a few things for you this evening, and a couple of them are logistical. One is just to put on your radar, usually in April or May, recent years it's been May, we do a Pathways tour. At the end of our last Parks and Rec tour, the bus tour, I'll call it, last September, the council president, Luke Kavanagh, pulled me aside and said, hey, it would be great to do another parks tour in the spring. And I can't see adding that on, but we are toying with the idea of, because we don't have a lot of new pathways built this next year to go see, we may tweak the Pathways tour, or at least propose to you, tweaking that Pathways tour into, let's pick a park. We're not going to do another bus tour, but let's pick a park and do a behind the scenes deeper dive tour where you can go into the maintenance facility. You can see how the cameras work, and we can show you how the splash pad works if we go somewhere with a splash pad. We can just do a deeper dive into some of the functional aspects of a park and maybe put that out to some of the council members if Councilman Kavanagh or others want to join. So let me just pause there and tell me if you like the idea of a deeper dive parks tour in place of the Pathways tour, or if you would say, no, we want to keep the Pathways tour, or we want to think about it for a month. We have a few months to decide, but I at least wanted to put that out there that we're thinking about it and frankly tend to be leaning that way. So any comments on that?
Any comments or suggestions from the commission?
Chair Gelsomino?
Yes, Commissioner Roberts.
I like that idea. I guess I would also put a thought in about looking at number 7 on our goals, the Fields District in Northwest Meridian. I don't know if there's enough that's happened there or enough thinking there, but I'm kind of curious about that area and what we're thinking. So if there's something there to learn about, eventually, or tour, I don't know.
Yeah. There won't be much to tour, but there is plenty to talk about soon. We had a letter of intent on the council agenda in January that got approved, where we are working with the Mark Bottles team on potentially acquiring some land up there, part donation, part purchase. It's just under 40 acres in size. And rather than getting to all the details here, I think it probably makes sense to, bring back a presentation to you. We can think about the timing of that. I'm thinking April might be really good for that, but we'll give that some thought. We did have a really good meeting with them just yesterday. And we're excited about the direction things are going. And we're very much working on that goal, and happy to share that. So, yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Nesmith.
I would think that's a great idea. I just would ask you not to forget about the pathway tour. And don't make that a permanent,
Oh, a permanent change.
permanent
Yes.
change. Just make sure it's on the
Yeah.
skip a year.
Maybe it becomes every other year, or maybe we can, doesn't have to be, you know, all one way or another. Probably we can say what makes sense this year and just, you know, respond accordingly. But at least for this year, we're thinking maybe doing a deeper dive behind the scenes parks tour in place of this year's Pathways tour. And we can bring back the Pathways tour next year as warranted.
I'll echo Commissioner Nesmith's sentiments. I like the idea, you know, and we'll do the Pathways tour, you know, as needed or continuously, and, you know, focus on it as we continue to grow.
Yeah. The next item, I'd also, speaking of the bus tour, the September tour, I would like to propose to the group that we plan to meet a week earlier this year instead of our usual, which would have been September 10th, that we move to September 3rd. And I'm putting that out early because that would not be a regular commission day, but I'd love to have you look at your calendars and we get more daylight. The daylight changes significantly week by week that time of the year, and we're always fighting darkness. And now that we've changed our meeting time, I think instead of starting at 5:30, we started our has become our regular meeting time at 4 p.m. So I'm thinking of a 4 p.m. start time on September 3rd. Get that extra daylight, and just if you could take a look at your calendars and let me know if you foresee conflicts. I would very much like to make that change this year, and it could go back to I have a potential conflict that second week that I'm trying to avoid, but I would just like to know if, knowing with this much advance notice, if that could work for the commission. So,
Yeah, works for me. Good.
okay. Wonderful. I think that's the main things I wanted to talk about. I think in terms of updates, we're very much into the throes of budget development. In March, we have what we call March Madness for ourselves with the budget, where each department meets with the mayor and their council liaison, goes over base budgets, and we are meeting daily right now, going through all of our base budgets division by division, and trying to be very prudent with you know, taxpayer dollars and making sure we're cutting wherever we can, and yeah, I mean, we're looking at it really hard, and really, we're only into it a few days, but really proud of this team as the director and what they're bringing to me to say, hey, here's what we really need as opposed to what we want. So I think I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions from the commission?
Okay, thank you.
I do actually, Steve. Do we have an updated timeline as to when the ordinance to set officially the starting time
Yes.
for the commission?
Emily took it to council. Do you know last week? Go ahead and take over, Emily.
Mr. Chair, I did take it to city council. They discussed it and they're going to discuss it again next week. So after that, I would anticipate that it could be in place by your March meeting. I don't want to overpromise, but April is, well, I was going to say for sure, but that's the plan, by March or April.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted to take a minute to compliment you, Rachel, for sending out meeting invites, because I messed up last month. I had my calendar, didn't see the 4 o'clock change, and just how life is so busy, and just like pathway, all the things we do, keeping those calendar invites out, make sure that You just do a great job. I just so appreciate it.
Very much so. All right. Next on our staff reports.
Mr. Chair, we a couple things to report on. We've been installing sidewalks downtown on Second and Third Street and Broadway. And for the last month and a half, we've had some pretty good weather. And now it's not so good. So we're right at the finish line. So as soon as it warms up a little bit, we'll be completely done down there. And so that's good news. Fuller Park sidewalk, same kind of thing. We've got that new sidewalk in from the street to the pathway that leads to the school is about halfway finished. And next few weeks, that'll be completely done. The restrooms at Lakeview, we've got 2 of the buildings are set. Utilities on one are hooked up. We're waiting for electricity. The other building that is utilities are in progress. We got to go out into Black Cat with a road closure, and we can't do that until they finish the intersection. And so anyway, that's ongoing. We're getting there. The next 2 buildings have been ordered, and we're going to be bidding foundation and utilities here in the next several weeks. And those are scheduled right now. The tentative delivery date is sometime in September. So that's moving along. And the Ninja course is got approved. And so we're going to lay that out next Thursday at Discovery Park, stake it out. So we have a small contractor group that wants to do some in-kind work. And we kind of worked out a deal where we'll buy the gravel and we'll buy the concrete and whatever supplies they need, but they'll supply the labor, which will save us a ton. And so we're going to get that going. Stake it next Thursday, and then they'll be in to start that. The equipment's a little ways out, but we're going to get it all prepped for them. So that's what I have, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions from the commission? Commissioner Helms.
With those new restroom facilities, I was actually walking some guests from out of town around the clubhouse, or head to the clubhouse and back, and it's noticeable to see what's existing and what's there.
Yeah.
And waiting for that existing stuff to disappear. It's night and day. It's a huge visual improvement just on the street where that is. So
100%.
thank you.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. They're nice buildings. They really are. Yeah,
Perfect.
pretty happy.
Thank you, Mike. Garrett?
Right, Mr. Chair. So like Steve said, most of what I've been doing is budgets, working with Emily over here with Meridian Youth Baseball agreements and stuff like that. And then a lot of interviews. So if you know anybody that's interested in a lifeguard, we are hiring lifeguards right now. We're just advertising for it. We'll start doing the interview process for them in March. And lots of some trainings and get-togethers and hiring process and stuff that happen in April. And then trainings all start in May, and then we open the pool in June. So doing a lot of that. But right now at the pool, like I said, it's all hiring lifeguards, and then we're scheduling dewinterization stuff. So with our Superior Pools, the dewinterization process starts like April 7th or 11th, right in there. The first Killer Whales tryout is the first Saturday in May. So it gives us about 3 weeks to get the pool not green and back to blue and to where you can see through the water and heat it a little bit for them. So it's still pretty cold there. And then at the golf course, I'm hiring a lot of our seasonals. We're starting to do the interview process for our player assistants, seasonals, as well as our seasonal pro shop staff, as well as our seasonal cart staff. So we're starting to do that process. Those have been going through and reviewing a lot of applications regarding that. At home court, like we said, facility budgets, trying to lower subsidies there, looking at ways to bring in revenues, scheduling it with youth groups, volleyball groups, open play. It's still rocking and roll with pickleball, so you can imagine. And in the evenings right now, we have 2 volleyball courts going with about 60 people in there. It's packed with just volleyball, and then not counting basketball and all the other courts. I mean, it is happening. So if you get a chance to drive by there on a weekday night or evening, it'll be busy. The parking lot's at least 80% full, it looks like. So another thing there too is we were got enough funding last in this budget year to replace the HVAC units that are there at home court. They're about 20 years old, run on the end of life, and they don't do a whole lot with our condensation issue. So we just awarded the bidder, have given notice to proceed for that project. So that'll happen in August. So home court in August is going to be hit and miss regarding HVAC project closure for the facility, as well as the floor resurfacing project. So we're trying to work that out and logistics with that. We'll know more about the HVAC unit project as soon as the HVAC units are ordered and we have an ETA and when they're going to be in, and start getting a plan with that with the contractor. Events, really it's planning and promotions and getting ready for Unplug and Be Outside. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Garrett. Any questions from the commission? Hearing none. Thank you, Garrett. And Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. We have been working on the Parks Master Plan update just to advance that. We're right now looking at opportunity areas. We don't own and maintain all of the pathways that are part of our system. So we're looking specifically at the areas where we have more control and can make more improvements in terms of placemaking and functionality of the system. We're also starting to talk about public outreach, designing a survey, and some questions that will provide useful input for us moving forward. And I think we'll include you on that process in the month or two ahead. Our Rail with Trail project, just west of City Hall, which has been ongoing for some time. We are expecting 65% complete plans. And that project, even as close as we've gotten this year, has been, it seems like we advance, and then there'll be a question about our environmental approvals, or we've looked at stream beds, we've looked at wetlands. We're under those impact thresholds. So things keep coming up, keep kind of figuring out that it's going to be okay. So we are planning to spend that money and bid that project. It'll be summer sometime. Fingers crossed. It's looking good after quite a few years of work. We've been working with ACHD on a new restroom for the Trail Hub property, the 5 Mile Creek Trail Hub at 10 Mile Road. And it's taken a while to get a license agreement from ACHD, and we didn't want to move forward ordering a building until we had that permission. But it's looking like we'll have that Friday. As you heard from Mike, the lead time on those restrooms is several months. So we're pushing pretty hard to order a building so we can get that project done or close, at least get a building by the end of the fiscal year. And then there's a new pathway segment out by Owyhee High School along the 5 Mile Creek, west of McDermott Road, and it heads into the Gander Creek subdivision. It's been a missing tooth for a few years, and we're really excited to be getting that done. So it's been surveyed. We got design drawings really pretty quickly. In fact, we gave the okay on the design, and it's now with Nampa and Meridian Irrigation District. So we'll get an okay from them and a permission to build the pathway and then get that out to bid. So that'll be something to tour the next time the Pathways tour comes around. Wouldn't be ready this time. But we'll put that on the list if it works, and then just otherwise ongoing plan review. So I'll stand for any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Any questions from the commission? Hearing none. Thank you, Kim. And then Emily, do you have a report?
I do not.
Wonderful. Just gonna cross my T's and dot my I's on that one. All right, with all the reports being submitted, we have covered all of our agenda items tonight. Our next item is adjournment. Do I have a motion for the adjournment of tonight's meeting at 10 to the hour?
Mr. Chair, so moved. Oh, sorry.
Yep, Commissioner Nesmith makes the motion and Commissioner Sandell seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.